Welcome back to Global News Morning. It's that time of week we like to check in with our good friend Matt Lee. We say, good morning, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well. I know that you're heading into a very busy time of year in the real estate world. I think it's spring and the fall are the very
Yeah.
busiest times. So August, sort of a slow period, but things are amping up in September.
Yeah, that's right. So when we see the numbers, last year was really busy because there was really nothing else to do. So our numbers in August that we'll see in the stats will come down a bit, but that's okay because what we're going to come into is kind of that what we would classify as that more of a regular market. Spring was the busiest in Kingston. Fall is the second busiest, and it is a busy time right until snow flies or December 10th, 15th. That's when we're busy from now until then.
Let's break it down as real estate 101, listing 101 here, selling your home.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is keep it as simple as possible and make it, bring the stress down, make it very seamless and not confusing. Because what happens is when you have a number of buyers that are coming in or a number of showings, the listing side, the seller wants to make sure that they are dealing with an experienced person and knows that it's going to be dealt with, because there's a potential of these going into multiple offers again.
Mm-hmm.
We see that when that starts to come again, I think it's a good time to have a review of that and how does this process work so that you can feel I'm going to feel comfortable going through this. So I think that we start at the top and we work our way through just on a regular deal. There's always going to be things that are going to be thrown in there in between that you need that experienced person to help you with. But this is kind of the breakdown of how we're going to deal with things.
Okay, first up.
Okay. So when we come in and we're going to look at the listing, we're getting ready to put the listing up for sale. You want to have the house shown the best it possibly can. One is we're going to review the price of how we want to do this. This is a seller's decision, but your listing person, your listing broker agent, is going to likely give you a suggested price. I go in, I do a market evaluation. I actually go away, I come back with a price and a package that says, this is why I think this price. So we go through all of these things and we say, okay, this is where we're going to start. So you look at the price and you got to make sure the pictures look good because we're dealing a lot online. There's the papers, not as much, but we do a lot of online. There's a system called DDF, which is the data distribution system. And what happens is that your listing is going to be shown likely on every single real estate agent's site because there's a sharing system because you want to make sure it gets out there. So you want it to look the best, and that is key. I want to make sure you kind of emphasize that on whatever type of property it is. So once the property goes up for sale, then you're into the showing time. So you're going to be showing the property. You want to have it set so that you feel comfortable. And it really depends on the seller. It depends on, do you have kids? Are you flexible? Are you going to be in and out? What is going to happen here? How many showings does this house think it's going to get? Is this going to be, this unique style that might get, the 10, 15 showings, or is it going to be something that's going to be really busy and it could have 50 showings? So you really have to think about from your standpoint, how many times am I in and out of this house? What's the time frame and when do I want showings cut off? Because it could be busy and you want to make sure it's comfortable for the seller, because it will be a lot of people because we don't overlap people. Even during COVID, as we've mentioned over the past, we want them to have their individual time. So therefore, there will be blocks all the way through. Getting feedback is a big thing. We want to make sure that after the showings, you're getting feedback from each person so that you can gauge what the thought is of each buyer coming through, because you want to get a general consensus of how the showings are going, and you want to make sure that's relayed to the seller so that they understand how everybody's feeling. So the offer presentation is a big day. You want to make sure whether you're dealing with one offer or if you're dealing with 10 offers, you're going to go through the process and you're going to see what benefits the seller the best at the time for that individual seller. We're going to go through price, you're going to go through conditions, and you're going to go through the closing date. And you're going to see as you're going through what is the best situation for that seller. And you want to make sure that they feel comfortable with the decision. And there's 3 different decisions that can be made. 1 is the seller decision. 2 is the buyer's decision. And 3 is the seller's decision. One is you can accept an offer and that's what happens a lot of the time. You can sign an offer back if none of them were where you thought that you wanted them to be, whether it's one or it's 10. You can sign an offer back to a potential buyer and say, well, this is the price that I would like, or I would counter at this closing date, or you can reject them all. You can just say, I wasn't happy with anything. Thank you very much for the offer presentation. We're going to continue with the sale of the property. And that's okay. You can do one of those three decisions and work forward. And that's what you depend on the experienced person for, to kind of direct you of what you think is the best situation for yourself.
And no doubt a lot of questions the seller will have at this time, and this is why it's so important to maintain that constant open line of communication with the agent.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're discussing, the different situations and how you feel about it, and be very open. Whether it's me or somebody else, I think that having that open conversation is key, and you make sure that you do what's best for yourself and nothing else.
Matt, get some rest. You're gearing up for a very busy September, I'm sure.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Real estate tips brought to you by Matt Lee of Royal LePage.